Disney Plus is destroying Disney, and they don't care. From 2020 to 2023, Disney Plus has generated $23.8 billion, and it currently has 153.6 million subscribers. But even with those numbers, Disney Plus will be the downfall of Disney. But to understand that, we need to go back to when Disney was actually creative. The 80s and 90s are the golden era of Disney creation. They were churning out blockbuster hits and captivated a generation. Movies like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Little Mermaid, Oliver and Company all grossed in the hundreds of millions of dollars. But that was just in the 80s. Come to the 90s, and you have movies like Lion King, Toy Story 1 and 2, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, Tarzan, A Bug's Life, 5 over $400 million. These were generation-forming movies. But out of this list, 2 were not even really Disney movies. Pixar was its own company, and one that was responsible for many of the biggest movies of all time. Yes, Disney's involvement made the films possible, but creatively speaking, they were not made by Disney. In fact, it was out of the crazy success of the 90s that pushed Disney in a completely different direction. One that I believe led to the purchasing of both Marvel and Star Wars and the eventual creation of Disney Plus. But little did they know that this was the beginning of the end and would lead to their collapse. Let me explain. The focus shifted away from creating family movies and in-person experiences to growth. And it all started with the hire of Michael Eisner.
Thank you very much. The selection of Frank and myself to work with you in this company, we think, is an indication that the board of directors have decided that this company will be led from a creative point of view.
Eisner was largely responsible for the resurgence of Disney animation in the 80s and 90s, but the success of those films was not enough. He wanted more.
In 1995, Eisner oversaw the purchase of Capital Cities ABC, one of the largest broadcasting companies in the world. The acquisition helped to solidify Disney's position as a major player in the media industry and gave the company access to a range of new distribution channels and content. He also oversaw the acquisition of several new companies, including ESPN and Miramax Films. These acquisitions helped to expand Disney's reach into the television and film industries and establish the company as a media giant. Eisner and Wells continued their reign of success at Disney by overseeing business expansion into new areas, such as home video and consumer products. Creating new revenue streams for the company was their top priority.
This has led many to start asking questions about this era of Disney.
What is the essence of Disney?
Disney is make-believe, wishing, hoping, dreaming, fireworks shows.
I would have to say it's once upon a time. Once upon a time means we're going to tell you something that is so fantastic and wonderful, you're going to need your imagination to believe it.
Once upon a time, Disney was a motion picture studio in a sea of Hollywood studios, doing something nobody else was doing.
Disney's business is memory making. Disney's business is tradition.
Following Walt Disney's vision, the company made beloved, family-friendly animated films and built magical theme parks where those movies came alive.
You know, Disneyland was the first virtual reality.
But here's the thing about kingdoms. They don't last forever.
This has all changed because Eisner decided to purchase a little broadcast company called ABC.
Michael Eisner has been called the most powerful man in Hollywood. He heads the world's second largest entertainment company with the world's most recognizable mouse. He has been chairman and CEO of the Walt Disney Company since 1984. His career began in children's television programming and came full circle when Disney acquired Cap Cities ABC in 1995.
The deal for Disney to buy the parent company of ABC came to the tune of $19 billion and was the first of many acquisitions to come. In fact, 20 acquisitions over the next 30 years to an average of $8 billion. Some of the notables being Pixar in 2006 for $7.4 billion, Marvel in 2009 for $4 billion, Lucasfilm in 2012, $4.05 billion, 21st Century Fox in 2019 for $71.3 billion, Fox Family Worldwide in 2001 for $5.2 billion, and ABC all the way back in 1995 for that $19 billion is what started it all. Disney, the once innovative and creative company, simply kept buying the art of others. This is the pattern that has led to the absolute mess we see today from the once amazing company. People used to go see a movie because it was a Disney movie, but now that means nothing. This is the end result of making growth the most important aspect of your company, where the bottom line is God, and it's easier to purchase those who are successful than try to make something for yourself. But it put the company on a path to war, one that would do more damage than they could ever imagine.
The transition from traditional television to streaming services has led to a major cord cutting across the country.
So did Netflix just win the latest round of the streaming wars?
I see them as winning the streaming wars.
Netflix, the great media disruptor, a company that turned the entertainment industry on its head.
In light of Netflix's ability to just be the king in this sandbox.
What does one do when they amass a giant library of shows and movies? The obvious answer is to launch a subscription-based streaming service where customers will willingly fork over money to have continual access to that giant library. The acquisitions of Pixar, Marvel, and Lucasfilm set the stage for Disney to step into the online streaming space. Disney was the new kid on the block, however. Prime, Netflix, Apple, Hulu, HBO had all begun in the wild, wild west of streaming from 2007 to 2010. So it did come as a bit of a surprise when Disney Plus launched in 2019 that they broke all of their desired subscription goals in nearly no time at all, on the back of a new show that captured Star Wars audience who were dying for something good after the failed sequel trilogy. And by the end of Mandalorian Season 1, Disney had boasted 26.5 million subscribers, and of those, 16.3 million watched all of Season 1. That's 63% of the subscribers on Disney Plus who tuned in for every single episode of The Mandalorian. I can't help but think about a different percentage, and that's the 97% of you who are watching this video but aren't yet subscribed. Let's hit that subscribe button and try to get the number down to 63%. So right out of the gate, Disney Plus made it look like the company had found gold. All these years of waiting and acquiring a bigger catalog is finally paying off. But little did they know, this was all just fool's gold. Even with these starting advantages, Disney has been forever chasing Netflix, and it's proving to be a war that they cannot win. When Disney began, they came in and undercut their competition by $3 a month, only charging $6.99, whereas Netflix was $9.99. And because Disney had many other revenue streams, they could willingly lose money at the beginning of the launch of Disney Plus just to gain a larger market share. But as we will see, that never ends. The market share is never enough, and it will drive this company to completely destroy their product in the name of growth. Because as time goes on, both Netflix and Disney will continue to raise prices, even put in ads, even though their subscriber bases grow exponentially over the next 5 years. And at its peak in 2022, Disney Plus would have a little over 160 million subscribers, But from that time, Disney Plus has been on a little bit of a roller coaster, losing almost 20 million subscribers, and then over the next year, up until March 2024, gaining nearly 7 million of those back. All while Netflix continues its steady growth as they nearly reach the 300 million subscriber mark.
Back of, a year plus, and people were like, oh, Netflix is dead, growth has stopped. Remember like when they started doing advertising, everybody was so scared that the entire story was broken. They were never going to grow subscribers. And you look at the amount of subscribers they're adding on a quarterly basis, 8 million in the quarter. Like, it's just stunning. Yes, password sharing is still a benefit. Sure, having a cheaper ad tier is helping, but it is just amazing. The entire media sector overall, scaling back, pulling back on content, slashing their marketing spend, retrenching, trying to get out of these multi-billion dollars of losses. And here's Netflix spending $17+ billion on content and growing it. NFL, WWE, tons of shows like Baby Reindeer, and now the Dallas Cowboy cheerleader show. Like, it's just one after another. And you look at the subscriber numbers, they're showing everyone you need to spend on a lot of great content to build this business. You can't do it on the cheap, not through bundling, not through JVs, not through partnerships. You just need to spend.
If Disney has properties like Marvel and Star Wars, how are they not destroying the competition? The truth is, they will never overtake Netflix. And the very pursuit of winning this war is actually the reason 20 million subscribers have walked away. And it all comes down to a flawed content strategy. Have you ever heard the saying, jack of all trades, master of none? Well, this perfectly sums up the content strategy of Disney Plus. And even with that being the case, they can't even match the pace of content being created by Netflix.
1,000 new original programs by the end of 2018, according to Netflix sources, which kind of makes my brain hurt, but in some ways it also kind of excites me because there's so much new stuff, and just shuffling through all the craziness that is Netflix every week, I'm like, what's good, what's bad? But sometimes it feels like too much.
All it takes is to compare the amount of output between Netflix and Disney Plus. It isn't even close. Netflix is operating on a different level. They are producing and creating a continued wall of content for their nearly 300 million subscribers to indulge.
Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
They're also jumping into the literal ring with the Mike Tyson-Jake Paul fight as they look to corner the market on live streaming content as well. Contrast that with the recent announcement that Disney will be releasing less content.
And Bob Iger at the very end of the earnings call said something really interesting. He said, we are going to be creating less content for streaming, and we can do that because we actually have the ability to see very precisely what is working, what's attracting viewers, what's retaining viewers, and what we should be making. And he said that not only are they making more content than they need to have that service be valuable, but they're spending a lot of money on marketing for all those shows, and they don't need to be doing that as much as well.
This news coming after a number of Disney Plus shows were just not connecting. The streaming war has taken its toll, and the damage has been done. Idea after idea that should have been maybe a theatrical release movie is turned into a crappy 8 episodes show strung out over 2 months as Disney desperately clings to subscribers' wallets, begging them to stay. But the once thought of strategy of releasing a few shows a year for Star Wars and Marvel have left both fan bases feeling apathetic to their once beloved franchises. But the worst part is, this strategy has also had an impact on the theatrical releases too. Now don't get me wrong, there have been some big earners.
I'm about to give you the thing you've always wanted. I smell what you're stepping in. The power in the Marvel Universe is about to change forever. I am the Messiah. I am Marvel Jesus. Excuse me.
2010 to 2024, Disney has seen 27 films go over $1 billion at the worldwide box office. Deadpool, Wolverine, and Inside Out 2, both in 2024 alone. But it had been a 5-year drought for the once box office maker. It can't just be a coincidence that during the life cycle of Disney Plus, there have only been $2 billion movies and only 5 that have cracked the $500 million mark. When you are creating content that relies on people watching TV shows to understand movies, all to grow the company, I'm looking at you, Miss Marvel and the Marvels, you have a losing strategy. Add to that, the shows come off cheap and poorly written. It doesn't create fans, it just drives people away. So when you promise an Obi-Wan show or a Boba Fett show, then deliver a mediocre piece of content that clearly only exists to keep people on your platform, then you have lost the plot. Disney used to create art. Now it buys it to hang in a gallery or hires it out to feed the content machine, because no longer is it about telling stories to shape a generation like they once did. It's now just an arms race in a failing war. And the hard reality is the solution is right in front of their faces, but they ignore it completely.
I think the movie theater is absolutely returning to its former glory.
One key metric is the number of big movies coming out. In 2019, before the pandemic kept people out of theaters, there were 112 wide releases, meaning a movie viewed on more than 2,000 screens. It dropped to 71 in 2022, but this year it's projected to jump to 107.
It's just a momentum business.
The answer is easy. It's simple and it's straightforward. Just make great movies. If Disney Plus was put on the back burner, if it was the secondary goal, Disney might actually have a chance. The truth is, they have generated a ton of money from it. They have grown a massive audience, but they will never succeed under this model. Many of their shows would have been far better movies, talking about things like Obi-Wan and Ahsoka, and some would never have even been greenlit if not for the constant need for more. Looking at things like She-Hulk, Acolyte, Boba Fett, Miss Marvel, Agatha all along, you could just really make an entire list of all of the shows they've made that probably would never have been made if they were trying to be a movie. So when we look at the money Disney generated in the 90s and the 2000s with their movies alone, it is clear this cannot be just a revenue issue. When they were more focused on telling stories and giving movie experiences to families, they were in their sweet spot. But they will never go back to that. They love bragging about growth to investors, and it's a far easier metric to understand and get clear estimated revenue. But it is killing the creativity process of making magic. And to think that they can compete with Netflix is silly when Netflix has one singular focus. The harsh truth is that no matter the profits, Disney Plus is what is destroying Star Wars, it's what's destroying Marvel, and it's what's destroying Disney.